All right, well, we're on holding by the Book of Leviticus Chapter 17. Again, we're on holding by Book of Leviticus Chapter 17. We're still in verse 2. The Torah says, by Bershom Moshe Lemor, God spoke to the Jewish people, saying, the Beryl B'nai Yisrael, v'yamart alehem, ani Hashem Elokeichem. Right, speak to the children of Israel and say to them, I am the eternal, I am the Lord your God. Spoke out Rashi. Right? The fact that God spoke on Mount Sinai, and therefore, since God spoke, we accepted his kingship, right? So basically, whatever he says, we're obligated to do. We spoke out the question, a few weeks back. If God himself spoke on Mount Sinai, we have an obligation to keep what he says. Is God king even if man's not around, right? We spoke about that. And last week we spoke out the Ramban, right, about what it means, Ani Hashem Elokeichem, I am the Lord your God, right? We spoke that out. And now we're going to go through, we're going to speak about the Orach Chaim HaKadosh, what the Orach Chaim HaKadosh over here says. More than a few hundred years ago, or more than 100 years ago, let's say better. The Torah says again, the Beryl B'nai Yisrael, v'yamart alehem, speak to the Jewish people, say to them, Ani Hashem Elokeichem, right? I am the Lord's, I am the Lord your God. Now, says Orach Chaim HaKadosh, over here, he says, first of all, he says you have to understand, you have double language here. The Torah says, Daber, you shall speak to the children of Israel, to the Jewish people, V'amarta aleim, and say to them. So why do I have a double language? Right? Why does it say, you shall speak to them and say to them? Just say, speak to them, or say to them. I don't need to say both. Right? That's one question. He asks. Also, it says, Ani Hashem Elokeichem, I am the Lord your God. Very good. Right? I am the Lord your God. Says Orach Chaim HaKadosh over here, and up until this point, I didn't know that. I mean, a lot of things have gone on. The Jewish people come out of Egypt, right? They hear God, at Mount Sinai. God gives the Torah, and he says, Anochi Hashem Elokecho, right? Exodus chapter 20, verse 2, I am the Lord your God, how do you know? Because I took you out of Egypt. I mean, many times the Torah says, Ani Hashem Elokecho, I am the Lord your God. So what's so special over here? Why do I have to mention it over here? So that's the second question. And then he asks, okay, in the next verse, which I'm not going to get to today, but we'll get there at some point. It says, "Kamai se'eretz mitzvayim asher yeshavtem ba lo tasu." Kamai se'eretz Canaan, she'ani mevi eschem shama lo tasu v'oseichem lo svilechem. So over there, it says, don't go after the actions, the deeds of the land of Egypt. Where you live, don't go after the deeds of the land of Canaan, right? Where I'm going to bring you. Right? You shouldn't do, you should walk in their ways. Right? Very good. Says Orach Chaim HaKadosh over here. What does it mean? What in the world does that mean? Don't go after their actions. What actions are we talking about? Torah doesn't say. Right? Torah does not say. And then the Torah is going to go on to all these laws about immorality, etc. But it doesn't say. Torah doesn't say what that is. And not only that, he says that if I don't know what these actions are, right, how do I know what to stay away from? Right? Also, brings down the Medrash, and the Medrash says, I learned out the actions of the people of Egypt, the actions of the people of Canaan. Right? Very good. Right? I learned whatever those actions are I can't do from one group, I learned to the other. And he says, I don't understand. So what's the difference? What's the difference between the actions of the people of Egypt and the actions of the people of Canaan? Just tell me the actions of one of them, right? Seemingly, I don't need both. Very good, right? So yeah, he asked about that as well. Right? And seemingly he says that both of these nations are bad, right? Why does the Torah call them both out? Call out one of them, right? You don't need to call out both, you call out one. Right? That's another question he asks. And he says also, you have to understand, why does it say the people of Egypt that you dwelt by, right? That you lived in. Right, sorry, the land of Egypt that you lived in. He says, you would have thought, there's another land of Egypt. You think there are two lands of Egypt? Right. Also, the same thing by the land of Canaan. How many lands of Canaan are there? Right. Let's take a survey. Right. We'll take a survey in the Torah. How many lands of Canaan are there? Right. Why does that have to be called out here? Right. The assumption is, he says, I didn't know there are any other land. That would be the assumption. Right. There's no other lands. I have to mention the land of Canaan. But when the Torah mentions the land of Canaan, the land of Egypt, why would I think there's another one? Right? I wouldn't think there's another one. And if you want to tell me, maybe there's another land, right? Of either one of them, where do I know the actions? The actions of these lands. Right? So that's a whole bunch of questions over here. So he answers like this. I mean, he's going to give a bunch of answers here. But one is, he says like this. He says, what are we talking about here? What are the actions? What are the actions over here they can do? So we do understand, later on in verse 24, I'm not sure we're going to get there, when we're going to get there. But what does the Torah say over there? The Torah says, do not, al titamu b'cho eila, yivko eila nitmo hagoyim, she'ani meshaleh mipnei. Says, do not do the actions, do not make yourself impure. Right? Don't do these disgusting actions that these non-Jewish nations polluted the land. Right? Where I'm going to send you. Where I'm going to send you. Right? Now, what's it talking about? The entire chapter. What's the entire chapter talking about? It's talking about the mitzvah of Arias. Arias means immorality. Right? Immorality. Because it says in verse 24, don't make yourself impure, all these things that they did. Right? That's why I got to wipe them out, because of all the terrible things they did in the land. They polluted the land. So you got to sanctify the land. Very good. So what does it tell me over here? That the actions of the land of Egypt, i.e. the action of the Egyptians and the action of the Canaanites, what was the action that was so bad that God says, don't do them? Don't go like them. That is the idea of immorality, right? And now we're going to explain, right? Now we're going to explain what that is. But what's the bottom line? The first thing here is, I mentioned both of them, because both of the land of the Canaanites and the land of the Egyptians, what's the common denominator between both? Common denominator between both is they're extremely immoral. Both were extremely immoral. And that's what we're going to learn out here. Stay away from their bad actions. Now, comes along Or Chaim HaKadosh here, and he says, what's the command? The command is, I want you to be holy. Just like he's going to say, let's say better, just like Torah's going to say in Leviticus chapter 19, not sure we're going to get there, when we're going to get there, but the Torah says at the very beginning, by the Bereshit, Moshe Lamor, speak to the Jewish people saying, Daber el kol adas b'nei Yisrael v'yamart aleim kedoshim tiyu ki kadosh ani Hashem Elokeichem. Speak to the children of Israel, the group of children of Israel, and say to them, you shall be holy. Why should you be holy? Because I'm holy. Because I'm the Lord your God. And you got to be holy because I'm holy. So what's that talking about? Says Rashi over there, it's talking about Gilui Arayos, staying away from immorality. The Ramban disagrees. And the Ramban says, what does it mean to be holy? It means you're allowed to eat, you're allowed to drink, right? But you're not allowed to abuse it. You're not allowed to be 50 pounds overweight. You're not allowed to be an alcoholic. You got to be holy. Right? Or Chaim HaKadosh over here says, it's well known that the command for the Am, Kiddushoi, i.e. the Jewish people, the holy people, right? What's the mitzvah for them? They stand out against everybody else. They have to stay away from immorality. Right? They have to do the right thing. They have to go on the right path. They have to separate themselves from forbidden relationships. Things that are extremely, that a person extremely desires. And a person really wants to do. Right? What's the strongest urge, in the world that God gave to men? Is in the matter of, we'll keep this clean, the matter of relations. So God gave everyone, certainly, an evil inclination for that. The Book of Leviticus says in the Gate of Reflection, if God would not give that desire to man, right, obviously to use it the right way, but if a man did not have that desire, guess what? There would be no next generation. People wouldn't have kids. People would get together to have kids. So God put it in our psyche. It's part of our DNA, right? It's definitely part of our DNA that a person's going to want to have kids. Now, some will want to have kids just to have a next generation, right? So they'll have, a next generation. And if you don't have that, that's why non-Jews are obviously obligated to have children. Yeah, they can have 2 kids, 5 years apart, 10 years apart, doesn't really matter. Right, but they're obligated to have children. Why are they obligated to have children? Very simple, to populate the world. Right? If you didn't populate the world, there's no next, no next generation. Nonetheless, you got to use it the right way. But he says this is something that a person has a strong desire towards. Right? A very, very strong desire towards. Now, if that's true, if that is true, then why did God command stay away from it? In other words, if it's such a strong desire, so enjoy it. What's the problem? Right? What's the problem? The issue is you have to know how to enjoy it. You have to use it in the right way. You have to harness it in the right way. You can't abuse it. You got to say, well, what can I do? I'm under onus. Right? It's beyond my control. Right? It's something that is so strong. Right? So strong in a person. How can you say I have to harness it? Right? That would be the obvious question. That would be the obvious question. But the Torah says a man has to get married. Now, a man has an obligation to have children. Now, it just so happens, can't have children without a woman. So she helps, certainly, in this mitzvah. It's not necessarily her mitzvah, though. Right? She helps in it. It's not her obligation, per se. But a man has to have, children. We hold that it has to have at least a boy and a girl. Right? If he had 5 straight, boys, he can't have any more kids. That's it. He didn't fulfill his obligation. He had boys. Okay, you have to have one of each. We hold you have to have one of each. And in any case, so he put in the psyche of a person to want to have kids. That, to have that desire. It's one of the things Both Bible says in the Gate of Reflection. He talks about the miracle of the human body. The miracle what happens when, a child's conceived, and the miracle that, it's in the womb and it's protected and it gets nourished, all things being equal, 9 months later, a healthy baby comes out again, all things being equal, talks about how the body forms, and how the limbs form and the purpose of the hand and the thumb and like all these different things of the human body that make it absolutely miraculous, that it's impossible if you look at the human body and nature. The Book of Leviticus says impossible to say it's random, right? You're gonna say, come on, you know, two people get together, right? A man and woman get together, they can have a child, right? All things being equal. You gotta say, okay, isn't that nature? Very good, right? That's nature. So you get sperm, it fertilizes the egg, very good, right? And then the child forms. So you gotta say that's nature. Or you take an apple seed, take an orange seed, or take a peach pit, even better. Peach pit, no one can eat it. Break your teeth on it. I mean, you can try it. I wouldn't recommend it, but you break your teeth on it. An animal will never eat it. When you put it in the ground, it dissolves, right? Disintegrates. Plenty of water, plenty of sunlight, all things being equal, what's going to happen? You're gonna have a tree of peaches, right? Could be hundreds of peaches. Gonna say, of course, that's the DNA in a peach pit, right? That's the DNA in an apple pit, and an orange seed. Beautiful. So you're going to tell me every single time that's going to be the case, right? Every time I take a peach pit, it's going to grow a peach tree, right? It's going to grow hundreds of peaches. Or an apple, the same thing. Because of course, that's nature. What you never studied biology, right? You never studied nature, right? That's nature 101. Very good. Why is it like that? Because what do you mean, why is it like that? That's nature. Who made it that way? Who cares? What do you mean, who cares? See, this is the proof you take by Abraham at the age of 3 or the age of 40 or even older. Abraham looked at the world and said, there must be a designer. There absolutely must be a designer, right? If there's a world of design, right? I'm sitting at a table, no one can see, right? But the table has 4 legs. No one's going to say it made it by itself. Immaculate, immaculate perception, right? It came out by itself. I don't think so. Right? They're going to say someone designed it in a specific way. Very good. So that's by a table, right? That's by a book. It's by anything. You're going to say there had to be a designer. Very good. Right? So then the next question would be, okay, so even if you tell me that through nature, through the human body, through the heavenly spheres, very good, it looks like everything is in order, and there's someone who put it that way, and the earth goes on its axis, and it doesn't change. Because if it got closer to the sun a little bit, we'd all be incinerated. If it went a little bit further back from the sun, we'd all be in a frozen tundra, right? No one would be able to survive, right? Kind of like, Pluto, even though Pluto it's no longer a planet today, right? No longer considered a planet today. It doesn't matter. You can say, wow, that's our luck. That's our luck that the earth is like that. You say, no. If I understand how it works in gravitational pull, you say, of course. The earth is on its own gravitational pull, or however it works, and never gets closer to the sun or further back. But at some point, something's not going to change. Maybe, I don't know, giant meteor, asteroid, something, it's going to hit it, knock it off its course, or any other planet knock off its course. I don't know, maybe. Hasn't happened. How do I know it hasn't happened? Because it stays the same. So the fact that it stays the same, it has to. Why does it have to? Very simple, because if not, we'd all be dead. And the earth is 70% water, plenty of water in the world, plenty of air in the world. Whether it's polluted or not, doesn't matter, right? If you didn't have air, you'd all suffocate, right? We'd all suffocate and die, God forbid. So it shows there's order. It shows there's a designer. Now, if there's a designer, came along Abraham on the scene, and says you got to worship the designer, right? He convinced everyone, a lot of people that they all had their pocket God. Here's Bob, don't leave home without him. Everyone had their pocket God. Very good. And he convinced them to believe in one God. Even though at that point God hadn't spoken to him, God hadn't said anything, right? He said there's a world of design. And it's very easy to show that. So there must be a designer. Now, the question would be, even if you tell me there's a designer, very good, and you want to call that designer God, even better, how do I serve it? What am I supposed to do? Oh, very good. He gave me a book, manufactured himself. It's called the Torah, right? Passed on to Moses, gave it to us. Oh, how do we? Okay, very good, right? Even if that's true, they pass it down. How do I know it's authentic? How do I know it wasn't just made up? How do I know there are 80,000 different religions in the world? So what makes this true? Right? But that's not what the question people ask today. Right? They'll say, even if there is a designer, and we're going to call that God, okay. So you think I should serve him this way. Someone else says I should serve him that way. What difference does it make? Makes a big difference. Right? It makes a difference between right and wrong. And when I'm obligated and when I'm not obligated. But in either case, right? In either case, and I'll mention one other thing. There are a lot of laws over here. If I was going to write a book and I wanted to pass it off, and I wanted everyone to follow it, I would make it the easiest thing in the world. I would make, a few mitzvahs that everybody can do, mitzvahs that are easy to do. People will want to do it. Very good. That's what I would do, pass it off. But you got so many laws over here, a lot of times, doesn't make any sense. Many times, the laws don't make any sense. Right? According to us, according to human logic. Yeah, it doesn't matter. You still have to, you still have to keep it. Right? But over here, so what's the point? So over here, we're going to have a whole chapter full of forbidden relationships. Yeah, very good. We're going to have a whole chapter full of forbidden relationships. What could I easily ask? I could easily ask like this. I could say, this, as we just mentioned, is one of the strongest, if not the strongest desire a human being has. See, animals also have that desire, but they're programmed, right? Because the part of their soul they have, the only part of the soul they have is what we call the nefesh behemoth, the animalistic soul. Every human has that, Jew, non-Jew, male, female. Everybody has that, different aspects of the soul. But everybody has it. Everybody has it. So what would be the obvious question? The obvious question would be, if God gave us one of the strongest things, one of the strongest desires the person has, in general, why would he tell you, there's certain things you're allowed to do, certain things you're not allowed to do, right? Certain people you're allowed to be with, certain people you're not allowed to be with. This is the strongest desire anybody has. Why limit it? Why make limitations? And not only that, for a Jew, not allowed to be with his spouse, right? He's not allowed to be with his spouse that time of the month. It's going to wait like 2 weeks, maybe a little bit more, whatever it is. That's separate. They can't touch, they can't pass things to one another, right? So, women are going to think, okay, this is not a bad thing. That means, the husband, can't look at her as, as an object, can't objectify, has to actually have conversations, even when they're not permitted. When they're not permitted to be together. Very good. Again, so women don't think that's a great thing. Rejuvenate the marriage and this and that. For a guy, probably not. Maybe not so ecstatic, but that's what you have to do. Right? That, for a Jew, it's an obligation for a Jew. It doesn't apply to non-Jews. Right? It's an obligation for a Jew. Very good. It's probably a good reason why, in the Orthodox community, most marriages stick. Even if there is, divorce rate and it's getting higher. So, even if you tell me it's 10%, maybe it is. Right? But what's the divorce rate in the secular Jewish community and the secular world? 50%, 60%, 6 times higher, if not more. Yeah, someone's told me, see, even in your community, right, the secular Jew says, even in your community, it's on the rise. So what? Even if it is, it's a problem. Yeah, I agree. It's a problem. Okay. But in the secular world, right, it's 50 to 60% divorce rate. In other words, the institution of marriage is failing, or let's say better, has failed. And there are a lot of reasons, right? There are a lot of reasons it's failed. It's not it's not the topic here, and that's not the point. The idea is, even if, God forbid, it's rising in the Orthodox community, it's not even close. Not even close. And there are a lot of reasons to that, right? One of them is this idea of family purity law, right? That is definitely going to rejuvenate the marriage, and you can't look at a spouse as an object, right? It's one of the reasons. Even if they're permissible. Let's say, a woman's past childbearing age. So then there are no issues, right? So she doesn't go to the mikveh. She's done, right? She never gets a period anymore. She's done. Very good. So even in those years, even though it's permitted to be together, yeah, right? There are guidelines, though. Guidelines. That's the rabbis say a person should be with his spouse like a chicken, right? Like a chicken, like a hen, whatever. Even if it's permissible, doesn't mean I'm always allowed to do it. Now, this cannot be written by a human. This is one proof I would say. Not everyone would agree, but I think this is one proof. There's no possible way a human can write such a thing. I don't care how smart they are, how bright they are, this and that. This is not something that's going to pass the test of time. Because if God gave you the strongest urge, you're going to say, so let me use it. Let me use it any way I want. Let me use it anytime I want, and when I want, and how I want. Why in the world would someone make restrictions on the greatest urge a person has? Or one of the greatest urges? Yeah, I got a whole chapter over here. Right? Whose nakedness you're not allowed to uncover and this and that. The whole chapter speaks about in other places also. You're going to tell me, okay, God gave the greatest urge? But guess what? You can only use it specific times. You can't use it whenever you want. You can't do whatever you want. So I would say, based on that, there's probably one proof that cannot be written by men. No man would get away with saying such a thing. All the men would go against it. What do you mean? What do you mean? Can't be with my spouse whenever I want? And I can't do other things? Like, why not? Why not? It's a normal desire, right? It's a base desire everybody has, right? Everybody has it. Let's be used the right way, right? 100%, 100%, 100%. It has to be used. It has to be used, in the right way. If it's not used the right way, that's forbidden, right? If a person gets spiritually cut off, or worse, if he's with his wife at the wrong time, right, when he's not allowed to. Let's speak about it more, but this is a serious infraction. So he says over here, says Or Chaim Makadosh, this is something the person has great desire for. Unbelievable desire for. Okay. I can understand that. So good. But he's telling you, as the Torah says, you can't use it and do whatever you want. It's not a free-for-all. It's not what we call a hefker veld. It's not a ownerless world. Can't just do whatever I want when I want. Over here, he says it's got to be separation. You got to work and curb those desires. So again, the question would be, what do you have to work on it? Why would I have to work on it? Why should I have to work on it? He gave me this desire, right? I should be able to use it when I want. I should be able to use it when I want, how I want, and all that. So then he says, this is something that a person has a desire for, very strong desire for. He said, what are we supposed to stay away from? Two things here. Two things a person has to distance themselves from. One is what the eye sees, right? And the second thing is what a person thinks. Right? So first thing is, what does the eye see? So we say that the eye desires, the heart covets. Right? Meaning, what it's a two-pronged thing over here. Person sees something, then what does it do? It affects their brain. They start thinking, right? Different things, whatever it may be. And he says, you got, first of all, what the eye sees, and then it goes into your mind. So what a person sees, we mentioned many times, has an effect on a person's psyche. A person could have seen an image 10 years ago, 20 years ago, longer, shorter. It's part of a person. Never disappears. It's always there. It's always part of the person. Doesn't mean it comes out. It can come out once in 10 years, once in 5 years, once in a few months, right? Whatever it may be. But it's there, right? Just like we're recording, the soul records everything we see, everything we hear. It doesn't have to come to fruition. Doesn't matter. Point is, it's there. right? Someone put up a post a while ago, what was the scariest movie you ever saw? People say this, people say that, and they said, they were scared out of their wits as a kid, but they still see the image, of the destruction, of the violence, of, whatever, all this bloodshed. It's all fake. It's all make believe. Oh, I can't believe they killed them in that way. And that was such a terrible thing. What do you mean? It never happened. You're probably like, sitting in a bar somewhere, getting a drink, whatever, having a great time. Who knows what. But it never happened. We get caught up in the story, get caught up in the images, right? So he says 2 things you got to stay away from. One is the feeling you have what you see, in your thoughts. Now, you can also ask the question, there are many miracles of the human eye. The fact that, what it can see and take in color and take out other things, unbelievable what the human eye can do. So you're going to see. So a person will say, come on, if the human eye, God gave us eyes to see. Okay. Does that mean, even if he gave us eyes to see, I have to be careful what I see? Why should I have to be careful what I see? What difference does it make? I look at this, I look at that, I look at the other thing and say, yeah, some things are healthier to look at, some things not healthier to look at. But why? If I can look, I can look. Right? Shouldn't be a problem. But he says I got 2 things here. First thing is, I got the feeling of what you see. And that has an effect automatically. It's going to have an effect on your thought. Automatically. So what's the person going to say? They're going to say, what do you mean? If I see this, it's not going to affect me. Right? I don't know, unless your heart is like destroyed, or something like that. How's that not going to affect you? Like someone told me, we'll keep this clean. Said, if you walk on a beach, you get excited, there's something wrong with you. I said, if you don't, there's something wrong with you. It's a normal reaction. I'm not saying you have to act on it. I'm just saying, you got to say, well, person should have control. You're right. Person should have control. Goes both ways, men and women. Right? The Torah says that, we say in the 3rd paragraph of the Shema, don't go after your heart, don't go after your eyes. Right? Don't go after your hearts, don't go after your eyes. That applies both to men and women. Doesn't matter. Even, if either sex are shriveled up prunes, doesn't matter. Right? Doesn't matter. Still forbidden. So what a person sees, then a person thinks about it. If you saw something, let's say, it comes up, people will say, saw something I shouldn't see. Yeah. Summertime, woman walks by, let's say, not wearing very much, the guy looks. That's his fault, 100%. Right? If he doesn't act on it, didn't even, whatever. But if he fights, trying to get that image out of your mind, that's why a lot of people look down when they're outside, because they don't want to see anything. So they're affected. Certainly can be affected. Now, is it the woman's fault the guy looks? No. There is one issue, though. And the one issue is, if a woman dresses in a way that's going to cause a guy to look, she'll say, I want to dress in something, tank top and shorts. It's 85 degrees, let's say 30 degrees Celsius, whatever. It's very hot outside, very good. She wants to be comfortable. Okay. Now, she's not dressing that way, so everyone's going to look at her. I mean, it depends how she dresses, but let's just say she's dressing that way because it's comfortable. She wants to be comfortable. Okay. Now, if a guy looks, is it his fault? Yes. But if she dresses a certain way, it's going to cause him to look. Isn't she over Torah prohibition of if they not putting a stumbling block? Because it's not her fault. Whose fault is it? Yeah. If she's doing it in a provocative way, then 100% it's her fault. Right? It's the guy's fault for looking also. Don't get me wrong. The guy's fault also. Right? But if she does it in a provocative way, it's her fault. Now, what about a non-Jew? That'd be by a Jew. Right? So it's a little question if putting stumbling block in front of a non-Jew applies or not. So I would say as a moral imperative, Non-Jews should dress appropriately. So, they have respect for their own bodies and they respect for other people. Right? But someone's going to say, that's the way I dress. So deal with it. You don't like it, so don't look. Now, if they're doing, again, does that apply to non-Jews? I would say no. I would say it's a moral imperative, maybe. Maybe that'll apply. Very good. I would not say it's an obligation. Right? I think it's a good thing. They should dress more modestly. But if a woman dresses relatively modest and a guy looks, not her fault. She's dressing, let's say, more modest. Okay. Right? Well, however we're going to define more modest. But the point is, if he looks, he transgresses. Now, if he looks, by accident and he worked very hard to get it out of his mind, good, so he didn't transgress. But then, if he looks and then he's thinking this, that, and the other thing, transgresses. Now, is that her fault? Not her fault. She's not going to be penalized here. The only issue is if she did it in a way that's what she wanted. She dressed in a way she wants people to look. Well, that's the problem. That certainly for a Jewish woman is a problem. For a non-Jew, I'd say it's less of a problem, may not even apply. As a moral imperative, I would say, yeah. I would say it's not a good thing to do. This is a guy talking. Certainly not a good thing to do because guys look and whatever. And just because, by the way, somebody's married, he's been married, let's say for a long time and things are good, just because, they're married doesn't mean, he's dead inside. Doesn't mean that, at all. Things can happen even the best of circumstances. So, isn't what he's saying. There are two things. I get the feeling of what you see, and that goes into your thoughts. That goes into your thoughts. And he said, if not, if you didn't have these two things, the person wouldn't have power over them. Why? Because I have two things there. I got, again, the feeling of what a person looked at, and then what he thought. And he says the person will not have power over them. Now, why not? Why not? Well, simple answer. Because this is the most powerful thing God gave to man, right? The most powerful urge. If it's the most powerful urge, and a person sees something he's not supposed to, and then he starts having thoughts, even if he doesn't act on it, even if nothing happens, a person can be punished. A Jew can be punished. Two things, even though in general we say, words in my heart don't matter. By two things, it does, even if I don't say anything, but I think about it. One of them is immorality. One of them is, the other is idolatry. So even if a person wouldn't, did not say, JC is my God, right? That would be forbidden. That would be forbidden, right? It's idolatry. But let's say you didn't say it, you thought it. So what's someone going to say? Even if you thought it, doesn't matter because thoughts in my mind don't matter, right? Words in my heart don't matter. But the fact is, by two things, it does matter, even if you don't act on them. One is idolatry, and the other is immorality, right? Other is immoral thoughts. Because if a person allows this to happen and is allowed to see whatever he wants, it will affect their mindset. Now, we're not going to just discriminate against men. I think it applies more to men than to women. Women can also, right? Women can also have bad thoughts, right? It can also apply to them. As we said by the third paragraph of the Shema, don't go after your heart, don't go after your eyes. The Rambam says clear. It applies to both. Applies to both men and women. Right? And not only that, the more a person thinks about it, the worse it is. Because it's harder to fight against. So there's two things. It's what I see and how my mind looks at it. Right? How my mind feels it. right? So if you didn't have this, right? If you didn't have this, very good. Yeah, but the fact you do, if you don't work on it, you don't work on controlling your thoughts. Says Or Chaim HaKadosh over here, you will not have power to fight against it. This desire it's a natural desire. No one disagrees. It's an absolute natural desire. They're putting things out there, certainly in this generation, right, that are unnatural desires. Okay, still forbidden, right? 100% still forbidden. But if you're going to tell me the strongest desire, the most natural desire is the attraction between a man and a woman, right? That is a strong, let's say, is the strongest desire. Yeah. So the Or Chaim HaKadosh says, if you don't nip it in the bud, no pun intended, and you don't work on controlling what you see, it will definitely have an effect on your thoughts. And not only will it have an effect on your thoughts, because you do things that you should never do. Comes along Levi Zakluria, known as the Arizal. The Arizal says, right, according to Kabbalah, just make this simple. Why is it if a person says a Shmon Esrei, silent meditation, whatever you want to call it, there are 19 blessings, right? That's for spiritual things, physical things. We ask for health, we ask for knowledge, right? We ask for really spiritual knowledge, right? We ask for livelihood, we ask for health, we ask for spiritual things, coming the Messiah, judgment in the world, meaning that God should reign all over the world and that people should see it and whatever. All these things, very good. 19 blessings. Ask the Arizal of Isaac, glory of blessed memory, why would someone lose concentration when they're praying in front of God? Now you tell me 19 blessings. Okay. We don't normally have proper intention when we pray anyway. That's not even the point, right? But it's true. Our mind wanders. We're thinking about other things. Very good. But why is it someone will lose concentration? And the very simple thing is because they've opened themselves up to sin. They're thinking other things and their mind goes crazy. So what's he telling you? He's telling you, you got to learn to control your mind and controlling your thoughts. And that's not so easy. I mentioned many times, imagine someone's racing around, preparing for Shabbos, preparing for a festival. They get ready to light the candles, everything's done, right? They light the candles, it's like, okay, all secular things that I would do now, totally forbidden now on Shabbos. What changed? What in the world changed? Okay, you lit the candles, you made the blessing. Very good. Very good, you made the blessing. Okay. Now, even if you're going to tell me you made the blessing, does that mean, all your thoughts, that you're thinking about before, et cetera, you get all these bills to pay and other things or whatever. All of a sudden now it becomes forbidden, right? I shouldn't be thinking about them because it'll ruin your Shabbos. Yeah, but what changed? All of a sudden you just lit candles. Very good. You lit candles. Okay. That means at that point, your mindset now has to change, right? In other words, they're going to be things that are forbidden to touch. They're going to be things that are forbidden to think about, right? You got to focus on Torah. You got to focus on, Torah portion of the week. You got to focus on, you make kiddush, you have challah, different foods. You sanctify the day by how you dress, and many other things. So you're going to say that's hard. That's hard to change the mentality. Very good. Right? But that's what a person has to do. And, some people will feel it's very refreshing because, very simple. I don't have to think about the everyday now. The everyday doesn't matter. That's why I can't pray for my needs on Shabbos, because it doesn't matter. Right? All those needs, all those things I'm busy with during the week. Got a whole slew of bills to pay the next week. Is it going to help you now? Is it going to help you on Shabbos? No. Even if you knew where you're going to get money from and this and that, doesn't help you because you can't do it. Right? Out of mind, out of sight. And not only that, it's going to ruin your Shabbos. Very good. So I have to change the way I think. I have to change the focus on what I do. Because if you don't, you get sucked into the everyday. And it's very easy. right? The Ramchal says in Derech Hashem, he says in Path of the Just as well. He says, I'm in this world to toil, and you can get distracted, right? You can get distracted today, right? Today is the most distracting day of the day of the year. Why? Because you got the Super Bowl, right? Biggest distraction. Why do I say biggest distraction? Most watched game, right? In the history of man, outside the World Cup. Outside the World Cup, right? Because you got all these, the nations in Europe and other places that, more into soccer or football, whatever you want to call it, right? Certainly than America, it doesn't matter. This is watched by hundreds of millions of people. That's why people will pay exorbitant amounts of money for the sake of what? A commercial. 30-second commercial be worth, I don't know, $100,000. $50,000 going to be worth $1 million now because you got more people seeing it, right? So, but it's a whole day planned around this game, right? You got the pregame show, you got the halftime show. Everyone's going to watch the commercials, right? It's a whole day, right? It's a whole day. You're planning this thing, to watch guys play football, whether your team's in it and not in it. It's a whole day, right? They're going to say, come on. There are worse things a person can do. I would agree. 100%. There are worse things a person can do. Right? But think about it. People who are into sports, you're going to change their mentality about this game. You're not going to change their mentality. Right? They're going to think it's okay, so you don't watch it. So it's your choice. But this world's a big world of distraction. When a person gets upstairs after 120 years, after a person dies, God's going to ask him two questions. First question is, did you learn Torah? That's going to be the first question. And the second question is, were you honest in business? Now, difference of opinion, which question comes first, doesn't really matter, right? But the person's going to say, what do you learn Torah? How was I supposed to learn Torah? I was too busy. What were you busy with? So God plays the video of everything you did in this world. You were busy with entertainment. You were busy going out to dinner. A person was busy, in sports, this, that. If they got distracted, it's your fault. They'll blame God and say, you distracted me. You created a world of distraction. God says, you're right. I created a world of distraction. But God's also going to say, I gave you an antidote to the evil inclination. What's the antidote to the evil inclination? It's Torah. You need my help to overcome the evil inclination, the Gemara says. Very good. Right? But I have an antidote. So people are caught up in all this. Who says I have to be? Who says that's what my purpose in life is? And people say that's not my purpose in life, watching football. It's not my purpose. I enjoy it. You want to pray all day, sit in a cave and go, okay. It's really for the monks or whatever, but okay. I like to play, this is what I like to do for fun. That's not what life is, but it's enjoyable. Right? Back in the day, someone wants to watch TV, whatever. They want to watch a movie. You shouldn't feel bad. You're by yourself. What did someone create? A couch potato. Beautiful. Sit right next to you. You got your buddy right there. Bag of popcorn, who knows what. You sit back and enjoy. An hour goes by. 2 hours go by. Wasted. Absolutely wasted. So someone will tell me, but that doesn't apply to a woman. Woman doesn't have an obligation to learn as much as the guy does. So what? Even though that's true, yeah. Granted. Is this helping me draw close to God or not? That's the question. Is it helping me? And some people say it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. This is what I enjoy. So if you tell me you're going to become more spiritual because of it afterwards, you're going to get all the right values from it, okay, we can have a discussion. Short discussion. We can have a discussion. Guarantee, all the, sportscasters, whatever, it's all going to be Lashon Hara. 100%. Oh, this guy, this player, had a great year, but he's lazy, doesn't work on this. It's all Lashon Hara. More than 30 prohibitions in one shot, even of listening to it. Even if you didn't say it. So all these things affect the person. They affect the person what they see. They affect the person what they hear. Right? Because all these things are bad. Again, this is better than most things, I would say. Right? But, you hear what people say. You see the images they're going to put, certainly for, on these commercials and different things. All kinds of things be forbidden. Be very easy. Very easy. Yeah, maybe I give a course on that. I watch a commercial, break it down. How many times does it violate Torah principles, right? Or a short movie or a long movie, right? Even if you don't have immorality or vulgarity, right? Or we call nivul peh, people cursing and this and that, right? Or immorality. But what's the message? What's the message? And you see how people act. Could be back in the day there was more of an idea of sportsmanship. Today, it's all about upmanship. Showing, guys covering his, oh, come on, they trash talk, right? That's what they call it. They trash talk. Even the best of players. And they're gonna do their move or whatever, make this person like languish in the dust, right? Crossover, dribble, backwards, this, that, guy falls on his face, takes jump shot, hits it. Right? It's trash talk. Where's trash talk in Torah? I had somebody once who was played let's say semi-pro ball, played college ball. So, person, ended up converting. So I asked him, I said, what's it like? Just tell me, like, I don't even want to hear stories. You don't have to tell me stories, but I said, what was the locker room like? Well, the guys were speaking about different things. He's like, we're not even going there. He's like, you won't get that out of me. Yeah, you will not get that out of me. Okay. Yeah. I want to hear like a snippet, just to see how vulgar some of these people are. Right? They're not the greatest world scholars there are. I mean, there are some better than others. Not going to say not. Not going to throw everybody under the bus. Right? But again, are you learning great things of morality from these people? I don't think so. Right? Most likely not. But what will a person say? Person will say it doesn't matter. You know why it doesn't matter? Because I just want to see him shoot a basketball. I want to see him throw a football. Why do I care what he does later? Right? What do I care what he does in the off season? Not my business. Yeah? Okay. So why isn't there a sense of morality? Why doesn't a person care? So we answer. They're not going to care because they're not looking that deep. They're interested in what they do in the sport or what they do on the screen. Right? As great as an actor. You got these actors worth millions, for whatever reason. And it's like E.F. Hutton, right? Remember those E.F. Hutton commercials? Right? E.F. Hutton, and all of a sudden everyone wants to listen. Okay, very good. What do I care? Bala Mea, Bala Dea. They, a person who has 100, people want to hear what they have to say. Who cares? I have to hear a basketball player go back and say it's flatline theory, right? Sorry, flat Earth, theory. I mean, come on. Do you ever see a globe? Yeah. Do you ever study, cosmology? Whatever. You ever study these things that would like render what you say like totally useless and stupid? No, right? But why? Why are people going to give him the time of day? He makes millions of dollars. So someone pointed out once as an actor, producer, whatever, Jewish to boot. And someone asked about his Jewish. It's like, come on, this whole law is this. That. Like started going like, oh, this whole rant, like this whole rant. You can pick this person apart in 3 seconds. A person doesn't know the alphabet. So like, I'm going to take what he says seriously. I can't even read Hebrew for goodness sakes. Never learned anything. All of a sudden the person's now a maven. He's going to speak for Judaism and what it is. Come on. What does the person know? Do I have to respect their opinion? I mean, it's absurd. Someone, the example we always give is someone read a Wikipedia article on physics, what they're going to knock off Stephen Hawking. Like, come on. Like, seriously? You going to knock him off? Because you read one article on Wikipedia, on physics. I'll tell you a story. I took once, Dr. Gerald Schroeder, should be well, wrote this book, Genesis, the Big Bang, right? He was a physicist at MIT. And he wrote this book, Genesis, the Big Bang, basically showing or trying to reconcile days of creation with science, right? Not everyone agrees with the science, with what he says. But, in any case, I took him on to speak at University of Tel Aviv to American college students or whatever, university students. And he told me when I speak about physics, when I speak about physics, within 5 minutes, even the brightest person there who's learned some physics, he says within 5 minutes, all be lost. They'll all be lost. People jump up and scream and say this and say that. They don't know physics. They don't know nothing, right? This guy's got a PhD in physics. He's got a PhD in a few things besides physics, right? But okay. You sit there and argue physics with someone who's got a PhD? Seriously? I mean, if you got the knowledge, good. Right? So, but people open their mouth even if they don't know anything. So it's interesting. I asked them, this was back, when they had chat groups and different things, like, well, way in the beginning, of, I would say the internet and, and all that. So I asked him, he had a chat group for physicists, Jewish, non-Jewish, didn't matter. It's like once a week they get together, speak about some issues, whatever it is. So I asked him, I said, did anyone ever ask the question, physicists, Jew or non-Jew, did they ever ask the question about Genesis, the book of Genesis? Said no, never came up. It was all pure physics. That was all it was. That was all discussion. Wasn't anything more than that. He said never happened. Like lo hayav lo nivra, never happened. Yeah, someone with that kind of, that kind of knowledge. Yeah, it's mind-boggling. It's mind-boggling. People gotta have what to say. So I would say very simple. If you got the knowledge to argue, good. You got the knowledge to argue. If you don't have the knowledge to argue, what are you arguing about? What are you talking about? Yeah, you have nothing to say. You can conjecture, you can ask questions, okay? We ain't no maven. You're not going to be a maven in this by any stretch. But people think, I got to drop a knowledge. Why not? It's worse than Torah. I see this all the time. It's the way a person asks the question. Or people think they have a lot more knowledge than they have. I see a lot of times by Noahide, they call them super Noahides, whatever you want to call them. Like they're going through Kabbalistic ideas. Either they heard, someone taught them, I don't know, whatever it is. I always laugh because they're going to take what they say seriously anyway because they don't know how to learn. They never learned anything. Even if the watered down version, they still haven't learned anything. Want to tell me they're learning Kabbalah? Come on. I had somebody I went to college with. I went to university with, and he was here many years ago. And he was being a Reconstructionist rabbi, whatever that means. Yeah. And he said, I'm finishing up my rabbinic degree at Hebrew University. I said, okay. Yeah. So he says, one of the things I'm learning about is Kabbalah. Now, when I was back at JTS and the conservative movement, they learned about topics. They didn't actually learn the topic itself because they don't know how to learn, right? So they learn about it, the historic aspects of it. So I said, so you're learning about it. He goes, no, I'm really learning it. Because he said, if I'm going to be a heretic, I should know what I'm going to be a heretic about. So he said, I'm learning about the spiritual worlds and about this and about that. So, but this person never learns. How like he's gone through the entire Talmud. How like he has all this knowledge, right? Never learned anything. So he asked me, he said, well, what do you think about that? So I said, listen, if Madonna or Esther, she calls herself, I said, listen, she doesn't know the alphabet and she learns Kabbalah. I said, if she can learn Kabbalah, you can also learn Kabbalah. So he goes, oh, that's very funny. I was like, but I wasn't joking. I said, she doesn't know the alphabet. She's not sitting there learning the entire Talmud, right? That's not what she's doing. She wants to feel she's on another plane and she's learning the stuff. Very good. Yeah, whoever's teaching her, God should have mercy on them, right? But whatever. That's what she thinks she's learning. So I said, if she has no Jewish knowledge, no Torah knowledge, and she wants to learn it, so you're no different. I said, why are you any different? You don't like that answer. Yeah. I said, you've never learned anything. You've never gone through the Chumash from cover to cover. You never gone through Rashi through the entire Chumash. You've done that? No. Learned any other commentaries? No. Gone through the Gemara? No. Yeah. So now you want to tell me? Now you want to tell me, you're really learning Kabbalah? So as we always say, Can you study higher mathematics? You want to study calculus. Can you study calculus without algebra, trigonometry? No. Right? Can you run if you don't learn how to walk or crawl? No. So you want to tell me you're learning something so esoteric as Kabbalah without knowing the base? It's a joke. Right? Right? Someone says calculus 2, same grade. Yeah. That's what it is. Right. So anyway, yeah, a bunch of questions here. I'll take them. So I don't want to, again, if I had the greatest desire in the world, right, the greatest power. So the more you feed it, the more you want. Right? Let that sink in. The more you feed it, the more you want. It doesn't go away. Right? It's something someone has to harness. And you have to use it the right way, because I have two things I got to distance myself from: what I see and how it affects my thoughts. And both things together can be a recipe for disaster, an absolute recipe for disaster. And it makes sense, because the more you think about forbidden things, the worse it is. 100%, right? 100%, 100%, the worse it is, right? That's just the bottom line, right? That's going to be the bottom line. Yeah, let me take some questions or deal with some comments here. 1 second. Someone says God wants to exercise control of the human body. Why? Why? It's going to die anyway, and the Yetzer Hara will disappear. The evil inclination will disappear. Okay, let me ask you. I'll ask the following question for a guy. If they, would go haywire with this desire, yeah, let's say, right? We use the guy over here. If he acts on that on a regular basis, what does it do? What does it do? You say nothing. Not true. Right? Why do I say not true? Because the more it's done, it weakens the body. Now, is that going to kill you in the long run? I don't know any stats on that. Right? I don't know any stats on that. I don't think it's healthy, though. Makes a person weaker. That's what it does. Even if you wait in between and this and that, makes them weaker. That's what it does. Now, if we are very good. So if we're created from the dust of the four corners of the earth, and we have that animalistic side. So what does God want? We're going to see in Leviticus chapter 19. What does God want? Eating, the Ramban says there, eating is permissible. So you're going to say, what's the problem? Why can't I eat as much as I want? Go ahead. Right? Eat as much sugar, eat as much candy, eat as much, all these things that are bad for you. What's that going to do? It's going to kill you. That literally will kill you, because, it could cause high blood pressure, could cause, what's it called, diabetes, right? Cause a heart attack, right? Because people eat, a lot of things that are in saturated fat, even though it tastes great, right? They'll give you, to block up your arteries, give you a heart attack. So now someone's going to say, so what's the big deal? You know what the big deal is? You don't exercise right. You don't eat properly in general. What's that going to happen? It's going to have an effect on the body. That's what it's going to do. So you're going to say, so what? What do you mean, so what? It's going to cut off years of your life. That, in fact, may kill you. Person doesn't take care of the body, what can happen? If you have so much saturated fat in your body, eventually, what should happen? A person could have a stroke, could have an aneurysm, could have a heart attack. Most likely a heart attack. Now, some people, even if there are no necessary heart problems, in the family per se, a person can drop dead of a massive heart attack. Could happen. They don't have to be so old either. Right? So if you let the animalistic side control you, it could kill you. Literally, it could kill you if you don't take care of the body. Right? There's a mitzvah, the Rambam says, to take care of the body. Right? You got to get enough sleep. You got to get enough exercise. You got to eat, you got to eat the right things. But it doesn't mean I can't indulge. Doesn't mean I can't have chocolate. Doesn't mean I can't have ice cream. Doesn't mean I can't have other things. Right? Within reason. But at some point, if a person, person gets older, what's the doctor going to tell them? Say, oh, I see by your blood, your blood test over here, your cholesterol is getting high, right? So now you got to do something to take care of cholesterol. What happens? Simple thing. What happens if cholesterol is not taken care of? You have a heart attack, right? Or worse. That's what's going to happen, right? So you can't say, well, God gave us these inclinations. So what? What do you mean, so what? If you don't take care of them, they could destroy you. Going after what you see, that's not good. Because then you have to, again, person can be happily married, doesn't matter. The Gemara says forbidden waters are the sweetest, things you can't have. The person chases things that can't happen. Doesn't matter what's going on. Things could happen. Right? A person goes after society. There's a story, right? I mentioned weeks back, there's a story of somebody studied in Ponevezh under Rav Shach, blessed memory, Torah giants, the last generation, right? No question. And he was learning all day, had a lot of kids, and he needed to work. So he found a job at night. And, it helped make ends meet. So the only problem was, and he brought this question to Rav Shach, he said the only problem was that there was a non-Jew that would clean at night, and I'd be the only one there. So the problem really being alone. So he asked Rav Shach, what's the what should he do? So he said, you can't do it. Not allowed to be alone at night. No one's walking in and out. Anything could happen. So this guy said, I really need the money. I really need the money. What could happen between me and this woman? We have no connection whatsoever. Rashach took out a Shulchan Aruch. He read the halacha. And he said, that's the halacha. The halacha is it's forbidden. Absolutely forbidden. This guy said, but I need to make a living or whatever. And Rashach screamed at him. And he said, you think we know better than the rabbis? You think we're going to reinvent the wheel? It's forbidden. That's it. Forbidden. Can't do it. Guy didn't listen. And what happened? This woman started speaking to him, or he started speaking to her, whatever, cordially, this, that. Next thing you know, he's with her, divorces his wife. Happened. Story happened. I got to say, come on, what kind of Torah scholar could this person have been? Learning that, one of the greatest Torah institutions, one of the greatest Torah institutions, today. Because the evil inclination knows no bounds. Even going to say, come on, it's 1 in a million shots, never going to happen. I'm never going to have this connection. Rav Shach screamed at him. What did Rav Shach say? You think you know better than the rabbis? You think you're smarter than them? You think you can outfox them? You think they didn't know what they were talking about? They know what they were talking about. They absolutely knew what they were talking about. And you think I'm going to reinvent the wheel? I know better. Damn. So Shach said, it's forbidden. So this guy thought he knew better. He's gonna outsmart everybody, right? And what happened? He fell. And he fell in a major way. You can say, come on, it's an extreme example. Not an extreme example. Could happen, a person at work. I know someone will never call anyone outside their husband by the first name. They'll call them Rabbi so-and-so, Mr. So-and-so. They'll never call them by the first name. What's the reason? They don't have a connection. Right? Someone in the workplace, that's what you have to do. If you have to have a connection working on a project, okay, but it has to be limited. If not, there are a lot of traps a person can fall in. Even the best of times. Even in the best of times, a major Yetzirah. Major evil inclination over here, but you got to have boundaries. You have to have very, very, very strong boundaries. If you don't have strong boundaries, you could fall. Easily could fall. Right? I'm not saying, it's far-fetched and it'll never happen. And come on, you're talking Webster's 8th definition and different. No, this stuff happens. Rabbi told me a story, somebody, where, someone's married, 8 kids, 9 kids, whatever it was. And met someone on the internet, a non-Jew to boot, left his wife, and that was it. So Rabbi told me, I hope she's ugly. I hope something happens, she becomes ugly. I mean, there are horrific stories. There are horrific stories, and people have, addictions. People have news addictions. I'm not even saying things that are so bad. You have sports addictions. You have other addictions. Movie addictions, pornographic addiction, and plenty of things. Plenty of things that are bad for the soul. So you got to say, why did God want you to exercise control? That's the whole point. He put you in this world to toil. In the physical world is hard. Stay away from. Plenty of things that can have a negative effect on the body, right? On a person's mind, on what they think. So God gave you that to overcome it. But isn't it hard to overcome? Everyone's got an evil inclination, very strong evil inclination. Yeah. Isn't it a hard thing to overcome, even with Torah, even with everything else? Not an easy thing. I would say people, become religious or stay religious, it's a pretty big miracle, because there are a lot of things that could take a person away. A lot of things. There are some people leave Torah today. Why? Because they don't want it anymore. They don't want these restrictions. They want to be able to do whatever they want to do. They don't want to feel bad about it. What I can look at, what I can't. I just want to do. I want to enjoy life. But why didn't they enjoy life before? You're going to say, hey, too many restrictions. The rabbis make too many laws, this and that. The rabbis understood. They understood the psyche of man. But at the same time, you got to enjoy learning. You got to enjoy Torah, without getting burnt out. So you got to learn things you enjoy. You got to, sing and dance a little bit more, as I would say. More of my Hasidic side here coming out. You got to live inspired. Not so easy. Why is it not so easy? Because you get beaten down in life. So you say, why would God create something like that for you to fight against it? To work on your control. To control your mind. Control your thoughts. If not, you would never control them. There wouldn't be any idea to control them. But look at the negativity that it has. Think about Lashon Hara, speaking badly against others. So what? You're going to tell me, or someone will tell me, that's the way of the world. Everybody does it. Talk radio, news, talk radio and sports, other things. Everybody does it. Okay, God says, like everybody. I want you to be better. I don't want you to talk like the street. I don't want you to be like everybody else. I want you to be different. And the laws of Lashon Hara are very severe. Anyone want to play around with, more than 30 prohibitions? But think about it. If a person been working on themselves, on what they say, even not to curse, doesn't that change who they are? Changes the way they think, right? Changes the way they speak. That's huge. Why would God want that? Because you're not supposed to speak out the side of your mouth. You got to think about what you say. That's why the Gemara says, that's why you have teeth, that's why you have a tongue. So before you say something, it'll get stuck in your mouth before it comes out. Right? But, by a lot of people, it doesn't work that way. They just say whatever, they got what I call diarrhea of the mouth. They just talk. Right? But they talk about things, I'm not saying everything's forbidden, but a lot of things are. So why would God give you the ability to speak if there are certain things He didn't want you to say? Work on it. Because when you sanctify your mouth, you sanctify a lot of things. It makes you think in a different way. Now there are times I don't have to say Lashon Hara. I have to fulfill certain conditions. Very good. Right? But what's the point over here? The point is I'm not allowed to do whatever I want. That's the point. Even if I'm created from the physical world, even if I have physical desires, we're not animals. Right? We're not animals. Right? So we're created after animals. We are the greatest of creation. So if we do what we're supposed to do in a major way, then we are the greatest of creation. If we sin and we go according to our animalistic desires, then animals are better than us because animals were created first. So God gave us these instincts and different things in order for us to work on them, in order for us to harness them and use them in the right way. Speech is a good thing. It's a good example, right? I can't just say whatever I want, when I want. Gotta be careful what I say. Gotta make sure I don't offend anyone. You embarrass someone in public, you say, what's the matter with that? What do you mean, what's the matter with that? That's akin to death, right? That's like you murdered someone. Why? Because the Gemara says, if you embarrass someone in public, they turn white, then they turn red. Red meaning blood, like murder. Right? The Rabbeinu Yonah says that you use your portion of the world to come if you embarrass someone in public. Now that's a huge novelty. Why? Murder, you don't necessarily lose your portion of the world to come, even if you physically murdered someone. Difference of opinion among the rabbinic authorities. Doesn't really matter, right? But if you're going to tell me you murdered someone, literally, you murdered them in cold blood, okay. And you don't lose your portion of the world to come according to those opinions. You want to tell me if you didn't murder them, but it's like murder, you lose your portion of the world to come? It's kind of hard to say, right? Very, very hard to say. But that's the severity. That's the severity, because anyone that's ever been embarrassed in public, they know. They want to go and, to some sort of rock or crow somewhere where, like, absolutely they, no one will find them. Because embarrassment's like that. So you can't say, but people do it. Doesn't matter. You're not supposed to. You're not supposed to take revenge. You're not supposed to bear a grudge. Now, what about people who did something so bad? Messed up our lives, maybe our kids' lives, other things, right? Even if they repent, let's say. Well, the damage is already done. Doesn't the Torah say, I'm not allowed to bear a grudge? Well, look what they've done. Very good. Why did the Torah put it there? Someone's going to say, the Book of Leviticus says, oh, you think this is only for the righteous. You think this is only for the righteous. Very good. Right? The Book of Leviticus and duties of the heart says, no, this is not for the righteous. It's for everybody. Everybody. You can say, but that's a pretty high standard, right? God has a high standard for the Jewish people. Now, someone who's not going to convert, let's say, does bearing a grudge apply to them? Probably not. I would say it's a moral imperative. It's not healthy. Not healthy to bear a grudge against someone, right? Nonetheless, not going into person has more Muna and other things, but whatever, it's not healthy. Person has the way to go somehow. So, maybe with therapy, other things, maybe, but it's certainly not healthy. Okay. The Torah doesn't discriminate here. It says don't bear a grudge. It is kind of a lack of Muna. Didn't God put this person in your path for a reason? Maybe. Put you in your path, put you in this path for a reason. Right? So now, someone will say, okay, it's still not my fault, different things. But, Harbi Shluchim Lamakum, God has a lot of messengers. Very good. This person, are they guilty? Guilty. 100% guilty. Why they put it in my path? Work on. I had to take a loss somehow, or someone had to take a loss. So God put them in my path for that. The whole purpose of what we do is to overcome things to make us better people. Right? Being with a person's spouse whenever they want, technically speaking, is it forbidden if it's permissible? No. Is it a good thing every second, as much as possible? But they both want. Very good. Still, it has to be harnessed in the right way. Someone here says it's our responsibility as women to dress in a way that protects man's eyes. Yeah, I'm saying by a non-Jew. Does that apply? Does that apply for a non-Jew? There's a stumbling block for a non-Jew. Yeah. Place a stumbling block in front of someone. So not so clear, right? I would say no. There isn't a stumbling block for a non-Jew. Right? Is it what I would call a moral imperative? Yeah. Yeah. Obligation? No, but a woman will say, it's your fault for looking good. And it's your fault for dressing that way. They say, no, it's not. I don't have an obligation, right? But don't people look at women, for better or for worse, the way they dress? Yes. It's a guy talking, Even if a woman's all covered up, you're not going to look as much, maybe, right? If she's not all covered up, she's dressing however she dresses, yeah. So she wants people to look at her. She's going to say, not true, I'm just dressing, makes me feel comfortable. Okay, let's say that's true. For a Jewish woman, that's being provocative. And that would be forbidden, right? Because she causes someone to look. Someone says, seems his laws against immorality secure production of more and more bodies for souls to reincarnate. Why? Let me ask. Without even getting into that, you look at countries across the globe. Yeah, how many abortions in each country? Lots. Hundreds, thousands, millions. If the Messiah can't come till all the souls come down to this earth, right? Every soul has to come out before the Messiah can come. Isn't someone who has an abortion, isn't that causing that not to happen? Again, I'm not talking about where someone got raped or whatever. I'm not talking about that. Right? That's a different issue. Here in Israel, it's a horrific thing. Probably one of the top countries in abortion. Right? So you want to say, oh, these laws, but people are going to have kids, though. People may end up having kids from these, from these forbidden unions. Okay. Right? That may be true. It has nothing to do with reincarnation. Right? You'll see, the relationships. It's not just like some flippant relationship. You're going to say, oh, they had a kid. Talking about a father-in-law with a daughter-in-law. Like, that's not going to be so good for relationship with their son, right? Or an aunt, or someone else down the line. I saw it once, back in the day in Oprah. Yeah. I think she's still alive. Yeah. So she had a show. Again, you can't make this up. Fact is always greater than fiction, we say. What happened? She had a show where she had three people. She had the guy and two women. One woman was this guy's wife or ex-wife. What did he do? What happened? He divorced his wife and married his mother-in-law. Now, a mother-in-law is a forbidden relationship. Now, think about this. And she asks all kinds of questions, like, how does everyone get along? How can this be? I'm like, oh, they think to get along or whatever the story was, right? Many years ago. Many years ago. Now, this the Torah says 100% is forbidden relationship. Now, forget about whether, let's say the mother-in-law could have kids. Let's say she's not that old. Yeah? Let's say she's not that old. And she could have a child. Okay. It's not just a question of having a child. It's the whole dynamics. Right? So, imagine that family gets together for holidays. Whatever holidays. All right, they weren't Jews. Right? They get together, they get together for Thanksgiving, they get together for other holidays. The mother-in-law, the ex-wife. And the mother-in-law is married to her ex-husband. I don't know, it's kind of strange, don't you think? The dynamics would be horrific. Forget about what the end result is, whether they have kids or not. Not really the point. Right? It's having the relationship. And when you have a relationship, daughter-in-law, son-in-law, or anyone else that's going to be forbidden, aunt or uncle, that within that framework, whether you have kids or not, seems to be irrelevant. It's the whole framework. That whole framework is shot in general, just because you want to have some fun. I don't know. Because your desires got the best of you. Brother-in-law and sister-in-law, even better. And these things happen also. Even religious families can happen. Let's say better. It has happened. So, what kind of family structure can you have if that happens? It's disastrous. It's absolutely disastrous. I know someone interesting that, one sister dated somebody, and, for whatever reason, it didn't go. Right? It didn't go. And this person dated his sister, this woman's, sister, and they got married. They ended up getting married. Right? But he dated the other sister first. Right? It's kind of interesting. So I don't know exactly how the dynamics there are. From what I understand, they all seem to get along very good, but they weren't meant to be. The other sister and this person were not meant to be. Now, that's a little bit, that might be a little bit strange scenario, but imagine if one was married to the other, or even not married to the other, and something happened. Don't you think that would be a little bit estrangement from the brother? A person's married, and their brother, sleeps with your wife. Well, that's not going to go over so well. Most likely, that's going to ruin the relationship. That makes sense. And again, it has nothing to do with whether they're going to have kids or reincarnation. It's the whole structure of the relationship that makes it forbidden. Somebody says almost everything modern and most older friends rely heavily on immorality. Oh yeah. We're not living in Victorian England, right? That's for sure. So even if things were, brushed under the carpet or whatever, that people didn't people knew about it. This wasn't, in the public eye, certainly like it is today, but it's obvious. Right? It's obvious back then we weren't living in Victorian England. I don't think there's any question. Right? And morality's been there forever. Been there forever. Right? It's just the question, does it come out? Does it come out and then everybody knows about it or not? Right? And for most people, for most people back in the day, people knew about it. Okay. Right? People for sure knew about it. But even if people knew about it, it didn't matter. Right? It wasn't, it wasn't out there as it is today. Right? There's no there's no question. All right, let me see other questions here. Somebody mentions, I got through physics, wrong formula, this, that, but knowledge is power if you use it for the right thing. If you use it for the right thing. The problem is, as the Gemara says, if the nations say we have knowledge, we have wisdom, you believe them. If they say we have Torah, you don't believe them. Right? Torah is a whole nother beast. It's a whole nother, it's a whole nother thing. We're in this world, we said before. We're in this world to toil, but we're in this world even to control things, you'll say, that are natural. Like we spoke about before. These urges are natural. You're right. You're 100% right. And you'd ask the question, just because someone told me this many years ago, as we mentioned that, if you walk on a beach, and you get excited, there's something wrong with you. And I said, well, if you suppress it or whatever, and there's something wrong with you. But imagine, a person has a bunch of guests, they have a dinner party, right? Let's say, they have a get together. You have, I don't know, 5 couples there, 4 couples there, different people, whatever it is. And, and a person's spouse comes down in a bikini. That's how she dresses. Now, would a woman come down at a thing like this in a bikini? I don't think so. Right? She'll wear other clothing. Very good. But you gotta say, when you go to the beach, that's what you wear. Right? Or that's not what you wear. Or whatever. Right? That's what a person's gonna wear. Why wouldn't you, why wouldn't you do it if you're making, a party with other people? And that's something you would do. No one in their right mind would do such a thing, usually. Usually. You can have a party with guests or whatever, unless it's like a pool party. Okay. If it, even if it's not a formal party. You're not dressing formal, okay, but you're not wearing bathing suit and flip-flops. The guy's not wearing, is walking around without a shirt on. I don't think that's the case. I don't think according to anybody that's the case. So why would someone do that at the beach? Because that's the way people dress. Yeah, or not dress. Okay. So where is the sanctity of the body? It's not the point that the body's going to disintegrate and the person's going to die. True, that is true, and you won't have an evil inclination. What about the sanctity of the body? There are ways to go to the bathroom, by the way. How much, a person's private parts is supposed to show or not show, even if there's nobody there. The sanctity of the body. Today you see how people dress. God should have mercy on all of them. Even at formal things, how they dress. Terrific. Absolutely horrific. Right? So the question is, where's sanctity of the body? And where does sanctity of the body go? Out the window. It goes out the window. and this is exactly the Greek world we live in, by the way, which we call darkness. That's the world we live in. Because what do the Greeks believe in? Worship of the body. Then they fight naked in the gymnasiums? Yes. Other things? Sure. All kinds of things. Right? But that's the world we live in, worship of the body. So a person can say, why can't I show the body? I'll show as much as I want. Okay. Right, someone will tell me, come on, you walk outside with the suit when it's 40 degrees Celsius, or it's like 100 degrees. You're right, it's hot. It's hot. So, don't you sweat? Of course. And if I wore shorts and a tank top, right, I'd also sweat. 100 degrees, come on, you're outside, it's hot. You're going to sweat either way, right? But where's the sanctity of the body? That's gone out the window. Absolutely gone out the window. I mean, people today, kids are promiscuous at a very young age. Very, very young age. Certainly they're not ready for it or whatever, but that's what society's telling them. 100%. Some more, some less, but yeah, that's what's out there. We're not living, as we said, we're not living in Victorian England. That's what's out there. It's a disaster. Forget about gender issues. That's a whole other thing. Right? Right? But again, what's the issue? The issue is the Torah says you got to take the body seriously. You got to take care of the body. You got to sanctify the body. You got to sanctify your eyes. You got to sanctify your heart. You got to go in the right path, in the right direction. That's what you got to do. Because if you don't, right, you got to say, well, it doesn't matter. Your evil inclination is going to die anyway after you die, so you won't have an evil inclination. Very good. So what's the point? Because the point is, if you go after this world, you destroy the body. Right? The Ramchal says, there's a conflict between body and soul. Body wants you to go after what? Physical. So when you go use the physical for the wrong reason and for wrong things, you debase the body, debase the soul. Now, what does the soul want? Spirituality. You got to feed it, right? What do you feed it with? Torah. You feed it with mitzvahs. So if you do the right thing, so you sanctify the body, you sanctify the soul. Very good, right? But there's a conflict between body and soul. That's why God created you with body and soul. Because we're the only being that he gave us a ruach mamalo, the ability to speak, the ability to reason, to make decisions. Adam himself, God called him an apikoros, called him a heretic. Why? Because Adam said, if I take the evil inside of me, every time I do the right thing, exponentially my soul goes up spiritually. If I do the wrong thing, God forbid, the other way. True? That is true. And you get either merit and, reward exponentially, or God forbid, the other way, exponentially. Right? So God says, why is he not because? Why is God called him a heretic? Very simple. Because God says, that's not what I created the world for. God had to go to plan B and bring death to the world. He didn't want man to do that. He said to man, you're right. If you act in this way, you can sanctify your body and your soul exponentially, 100%. You can also debase the body and the soul exponentially. That is true. I don't disagree with that. There's only one problem. He said, that's not what I created you for. I didn't want you to do that, but he gave man free choice. Didn't he know man was going to do that? Sure. Doesn't mean he took away his free choice. He had free choice. God told him not to eat from the tree of knowledge. That's what happened. Right? That's what essentially would happen. But that is the constant battle that we fight on a daily basis. Much harder. If it's outside of us, I know. If I walk in the forest, there's a big pit, and I know if I fall and I could get hurt. Good. Right? But if it's inside of me and I'm fighting these thoughts day in and day out, good thoughts, bad thoughts, trying to control what you see, a much different thing, much harder thing, right? Again, God did not disagree that Adam was right. He agreed. He agreed 100%, but he said, I didn't create the world for that. That's not what I wanted, right? You went against what I wanted, okay, right? I didn't tell you to do that. You decided to do it, okay, it's your choice. 100% it's your choice. I didn't tell you to do that. So we come from the physical world. We have to harness the physical, use it the right way. Because if not, then person's involved in these forbidden relationships, right? What does it do? What does it do? Again, it's not about having children and reincarnation and all that. It's not about that, right? It's about the dynamics of what happens. You got the story with Yehuda and Tamar, right? Yehuda has two sons, they die. He has a third son, doesn't want to give to Tamar. She goes to her father's house, dressed up as a prostitute, whatever, they get together, right? They have two children. The king should never leave the tribe of Yehuda. Very good. There's a whole question, they stay together or not. Difference of opinion. Whether they stay together or not. Because if they get the Torah, why would they stay together? That's his niece. Sorry, that's his daughter-in-law. Father-in-law cannot be with the daughter-in-law. Right? But if we're going to see each individual relationship here, right? What's going to be forbidden. But if you look at it in humanistic terms, family gets together, this is kind of strange. Doesn't matter if his two sons are dead or not. It's irrelevant, right? That part is relevant. And if they were alive, if one of them, let's say one of them was alive, right? And the father was with the daughter-in-law, I don't think those dynamics are ever going to be the same. It doesn't matter how much they apologize or this and that. I think the son's going to feel like he got shafted, right? 100%. He's going to think his father's scum of the earth, took his wife, slept with his wife. Whether they stay together or not, whatever, doesn't matter. Those dynamics going to be horrific. So imagine being at those family functions. Can't imagine. What the comment, what the sportscasters say, you can cut the tension with a knife. Yeah, you can cut the tension. Imagine, there's a lot of tension there. So, it's not good. Right? Whether they have kids or not, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Right? That could be another issue, but having that relationship, and going after your base desires is wrong. Right? So why God gave it to you? To overcome it, to work on it, to harness it, to use it in the right, in the right way, and go in the right direction. I don't want you to just do whatever you want. I don't want to act on just whatever you see. It'd be very easy to do. Right? That'd be extremely easy to do. Yeah. So he's telling you that, there are things that you have to control. You absolutely have an obligation to control. What's the biggest thing to control? What you see, what you hear, right? Those things, specifically what you see, has an effect on your thoughts, Direct effect. That's it. So somebody mentions, okay, close the person gets to God, to Hashem, since the laws of nature do not apply anymore. Unbelievable divine providence. Okay. Yeah, person, it's easier to see when you live in a Torah life. Very good. How do I relate to rabbis who are very grounded and Western reductionist, mind-oriented, struggle to imagine existence of the soul? That's kind of a problem. So I'll give you an example. I had somebody, a number of years ago, student of mine was in certain synagogues. The rabbi, contacted me. You want to know if they're legit, not legit, whatever. And anyways, I said, can I ask you a question? So I said, sure. I had been, rabbi on his own for very long. So he said, I got this woman that I think is going to medical school. She's going to medical school. She asked me like all these, questions about God and spiritual forces. She was reading, the book of Derech Hashem. And so this person thought, this rabbi thought like, it's kind of strange. Like, why are they asking like these deep questions? What's the difference between the way God created the world, after Adam and Eve ate the tree, and the evil inclination, like all the like deep things. And he said it's kind of strange. I said, why? I think it's a good thing that Jews learn this, and even non-Jews, gives them a sense of how the world works. And spiritual forces. It's not all make believe, and other things. And, and there are people that look at things in a much deeper way. They want to, know how it affects their lives. So I told them, I said, I got a great idea. I said, I'm going to give you, a free piece of advice. He goes, yeah, what's that? So I said, I think you should buy the book Derech Hashem if you don't have it in your synagogue. I said, I think you should buy it and go through it. I think you should read it. Yeah. Take out of it whatever you take out of it. But go through it. Very deep book. But understand the basics of what you're living for. That's all she's doing. You tell me she's learning Tanya, she's learning Hasidus, she's into that. Okay. Yeah. I can hear that also, whatever level. I can also hear that. Very good. At the same time, that doesn't make this person a wacko by any stretch. They want deeper meaning in life, right? So they go to the Ramchal, they see what he writes, and it's a game changer, right? Gave a course on it. It's a game changer, right? Absolute game changer. It's a hard book to go through, but it gives fundamentals, about how the world works, especially about the inclination and suffering, and all that. And just the idea about spiritual force is also an important thing. Purpose of the nations. So I told him, I said, listen, I'll give you very special free advice. So I said, read the book and go through it. And go through it, what, however much time you have, just go through it and read it. You'll see this person's not a wacko by any stretch. They want to have a deeper connection. They want to know how the world works. This is a very good book to go through, even though it's a hard book to go through. Because the basics, how the world works. What's the matter with that? So I said, this person is for sure not a wacko. They want a deeper connection. So I said, I think it behooves you to buy the book. If you don't have the book, go buy it or get it online, whatever it is, right? And read it. And it should be a game changer for anybody. For anybody. It's an unbelievable book. Changed my life. I mean, many years ago. Many, many years ago. Gone through it a number of times. Absolutely changed my life. And the way to look at the world. Yeah. Now, that made me righteous. Doesn't make me righteous, but now you understand. You understand how things work. When you understand how things work in a much deeper level, it's a different world. Right? Even without Kabbalah, it's a different world. Right? It's a different world. Right? So I told him, I said, yeah, get the book, go through it. Somebody asked, is it forbidden to have a small angel statue? Depends what it is. Right? We don't make graven images, right, of us. If it's an idol, you can't have it. Right? If it's an idol, certainly you can't have it. If it's not an idol, we say that anything in the heavenly spheres, right? You can't draw a picture. You can't have a picture of a sculpture of, right? At least in three dimensions, right? Something that jarts out, right? So it's certainly like a human can make a full human body, right? Can make a face, a head, something, but not a full body. A sun, the moon, the stars, can't make according to scale, right? You got to draw it, if you draw it or whatever, probably in one, if it's not more than one dimension, it's probably okay, right? If it's more than one dimension, it'd be a problem. Or any of the animals that are on you see a covered God's heavenly throne, let's say like a lion, or something like that, drawing it, according to scale. I remember once, I came for Shabbos where I was living, and I told them on the parochus, on the covering of the ark, had a picture of a lion, which would be forbidden to draw or to have, let's say, if it's what's it called? If it's not woven, if it's stitched or whatever, it looks more than one dimension. So I said, how can you have that on on the thing covering the ark, right? It should be forbidden. So he said, okay, when I come, he said, I'll take a look. So the first thing he said is, well, I lived in South Africa for a certain amount of time. So he says, you don't know what a lion is. I said, okay, I might not know what a lion is. Tell me why, right? So right after the evening service Friday night, I brought him over. I said, you tell me why this is permissible. He looked at it once, looked at it a second time, he says, yeah, it's not a problem. I said, why not? He goes, first of all, you know what a lion is. I said, thank you very much. That was a compliment. I know what a lion is. I said, okay. I said, why is it not a problem? He said, look at the paw. He said, if you look at the paw, it's not drawn according to scale. Meaning it had what do you call it? Toes missing. In other words, if it was drawn the normal way, right? If it was done in the normal way, it was embroidered. That's the word I was looking for. It was embroidered. Very good. So if it had the normal amount of toes or whatever, the same as a regular line, that would have been a problem. It doesn't. He said that's why it's permissible. Now, he looked at it in like 2 seconds. So we'll look at it once, look at it a second time, says, yeah. He said it's not embroidered the way a normal line looks. The other part of the line, yeah, you could say that's a line. right? You can say that's a lion. So it's like, he gave me a compliment. I knew what a lion was. Okay. But he said, if you look at the paw, it's not the same. If it was drawn like a normal lion, that would be forbidden. But he said it's not, so that's why it's permissible. So in this case, a small angelic statue, if you tell me that something in the heavens they're not allowed to replicate, on that level, it should be forbidden. It's probably not, though. Right? It's probably not. It's probably okay. You gotta make sure that it doesn't represent anything from Christianity. If it's just a thing of an angel, then probably shouldn't be a problem. Right? If it represents something for idolatry, that would be a problem. That would be a problem. That would certainly be a problem. But if not, it's probably not an issue. Right? It's probably not an issue. But most people, these laws, most people are not aware of. Say, come on, what's the problem with the sun? What's the problem with the moon? I once had a picture. I actually once had a photograph. I was once on Masad at sunrise. Yeah, so the certain place you stand, you put your hand out like this. It's like the sun is in your hand. Well, having a picture of that's a problem. Right? That would be a problem. So I had to get rid of the picture. When I learned about this, I had to get rid of it. I also had an embroidery of like the sun coming down. Like it was twilight with the sun coming down over the western wall. Now the sun wasn't yellow; it was drawn. It was more. It was like oranges, right? So the halacha is if it looks like the sun, then if it's made in more than one dimension, it's forbidden. That would be forbidden. If a person draw a picture of the sun, let's say, or the kids drew a picture of the sun or the moon. They put a smiley face on it, like, in Raisin Bran, right? Sometimes they have pictures on the box of the sun. Yeah, smiley face, eyes, whatever. Okay, so that's not like a real sun. But if they made it kind of like a real sun, that would be a problem, right? So in this case, I would say it's probably not an issue. Probably not an issue unless it's used for idolatry. If it's used for idolatry, that would be more of a problem. That would definitely be more of a problem. Yeah. Any other questions? Someone has different color, sun color, like another planet. Yeah, it makes the sun black, right? Kind of like the Death Star, right? Right? Star Wars reference here, right? You make it a different color, totally different color, right? You make it, I don't know, charcoal. You make it gray, right? You're not making it yellow. You're not making it yellow. If you made it yellow, different issue. If it's a different color, it doesn't represent the sun, right? 3D portals in space and time. Oh, anything in the heavenly sphere. If it would be 3D of any of the planets, would be forbidden. Yeah. Any animal that's on the Kisei Kavod on God's heavenly throne would be forbidden in 3D, right? Anything in more than one dimension. So the planet, solar system in 3 dimensions would be forbidden. Also be forbidden, right? It would be forbidden to draw it. It would be forbidden even if you didn't draw it. Someone else drew it, right? For a Jew, it would certainly be forbidden. That light shines through. I don't think it matters. I don't think it matters. Fact, I have to double check this, but I think the fact is that if that's what it looks like, then it's forbidden. Right? Even in 3D, it doesn't matter if light's coming through it or not. Right? Light's not the issue. The issue is that it's what it represents. If it represents the planets, looks like the planets, let's say anything in that realm and more than one dimension would be forbidden. 3D would for sure be forbidden. So whether you have light there or not light there, it shouldn't matter. Right? That shouldn't matter. Right? So now you want to say even imaginative. Yeah. If you drew it, if a person made it, even if it's not real, doesn't matter. And you want to say that it's not the way it looks. It's not the way it looks. So maybe if it's not the way it looks, in general, then maybe that's all right. But if a person can tell, it's a solar system or whatever, even not drawn according to scale, but it's made in 3D, that would be a problem. That'd be a problem. Something like totally made up, so that's not what it represents. it is interesting, the Amish, quote the Amish here a little bit, they have dolls without faces, right? Because, graven image, right? So there was a question where Moshe Feinstein had a blessed memory, told Giants the last generation, quote everybody. Someone asked him a question, could he make a bust? He was I guess a builder, a sculptor, whatever. And he was commissioned to make a sculpt of JFK back in the day, right? So if you make, let's say, face, but it's not the entire body, I have a picture someone made for me. It's like 3 dimensions of looks like a rabbi that has that has here, let me see the picture. Yeah, that picture would be all right. Yeah, that picture just sent me should be all right because it's imaginative. Yeah, it's not drawn to scale. Yeah, so that should be all right. Um, yeah, that should be all right. But the yeah, so imaginative should be all right, right? Imaginative should be fine. But if it looks like it, then yeah, that might be that might be a problem. Someone has the wrong to make a model of the solar system to teach. Oh, so that was a question they asked Shimon ben Gamliel, that he had all these pictures of the moon. When people would come and say, "Did you see the moon like this or like this?" They asked him. He would say, "Oh, did it look like this?" He'd take out like I don't know, a piece of rock or whatever, and he'd say, "Did the moon look like this? Did it look like this? Did it look like that?" So everyone asked the question, "How can it be? How in the world can it be? How did he have them?" Right? Because he had parts of them. He didn't have them all together. Right? He didn't have them all together. So making a model of the solar system to teach. If you made it in a way, if a model might be different. Model might be different. If you drew a picture of it, you want to show certain things, or it's in 3 dimension, that might be one thing. If you had a model, right, I have to make a note of this to look this up. If you had a model of it, I would say, you put different things together to show this is what it represents. That's probably less of a problem. That's probably less of a problem. But if you drew it and it was in 3 dimensions, it'd be a bigger problem. Bigger problem unless it's something, like the picture you showed me that it's total fantasy and it's not drawn according to scale or anything. It doesn't represent that. Then yeah, that'd be a different. That wouldn't be an issue. Shouldn't be an issue. That was pretty cool though. But yeah, I had a bunch of things I had to. I 100%. You know. Um, in the sense that I had to get rid of, right? 100%, I had to get rid of. So since I had to get rid of them, it's funny in a certain way, like when you learn something and it's something that like, you're affected by, so you learn it up, you learn it up much stronger. Does apply to this, apply to that, because in the end you could be losing money, right? Or you have to throw something out, right? You could definitely have to throw something out. So yeah, when I was learning this, whatever, many years ago, right? Many years ago. So yeah, a lot of things practically came up that either was a problem or wasn't a problem, right? So I was saying that I had somebody that made like a picture of a rabbi that it was 3 dimensions, right? But again, it wasn't the whole body, right? It was only the face. It's really only the face, and then writing something or whatever, reading from a book, which happened to be my wedding invitation. But even so, that it's 3 dimension, it's talking about a full body, not just a picture of the head, right? That's why I think the person who was commissioned to make this bust of JFK, it was permissible because it wasn't a full body. If it was a sculpture of a full body, that'd be a problem, right? It's only an issue with the what do you call it? With a full body, not just a head. Whatever, but these are, like I said, things that a person has more of a connection to, that, things come up practically, then, you learn it up, you learn it up, very, very differently because, it has an effect. I remember, I was learning, about, let's say someone, puts a pipe on their building, outside their building, and it goes into your yard. Yeah. So I already had like, a number of pipes where people would like, wash their floors or whatever, and the water would go into my, into my garden or whatever. So, so I remember, I was learning, and it says that if someone, puts up a pipe, you have to go up there and protest straight away. If you don't protest straight away, then what does it mean? It means like you agree, right? It means like you agree. So I remember learning this. It was actually very practical. So I learned it up very strong. A person put up a pipe, or they were putting up a pipe, and I ran up there, and I said, absolutely not. As I get that pipe out of there, put it somewhere else. I got 4 pipes, of this garbage water going into my garden. It's nothing I could do because I bought the apartment. So, they were already there, so I couldn't tell anyone to take them out. But this one I could. Why? Because the person would start to do it, right then. Right. So the halacha is you have to stop them straight away. You have to protest straight away. If you don't protest straight away, then, then once they do it, you don't say anything, then it's like you agree. Right. So like certain things that affect you more, you're gonna look into it a lot more, exactly for that, exactly for that reason. So, a lot of things, I learned over the years that, I try to learn as practical as possible. Some of them, yeah, there are a lot of things. You shouldn't say some. There are a lot of things that came up very practically that, made impact, one way or another. So that's why, my Rebbe like ingrained in my head, like everything you learn it till the end. It's not going to make you a great rabbinic scholar, and you're going to know every nook and cranny of what the law is, but you'll know, practically speaking, what to do, this, that, and the other thing. And and a lot of things that I think are more practical that people, like stuff like this, people don't learn. And things about idolatry, people don't learn. If you live outside the land, these are things you got to know, right? Practically speaking, these are things, you got to know, because there are more things that I would say are more common there than here. But we're speaking about now, it's common everywhere, right? It's definitely common everywhere. So, but yeah, this definitely comes up. Yeah. Um, Soothing imagery. Yeah, it's not, technically speaking, there's nothing wrong with it as long as, it's not drawn according to what it is, and and that, it can be imaginative. But once it looks like what it's supposed to represent, that becomes a problem. More than one dimension, right? If it's more than one dimension, it's a problem. If it's outside of, if it's not, then yeah. So, it would be less of an issue. But that asks the question, drawing the sun and the moon, and your kids draw a sun and the moon, how is that permissible? That's a legitimate question. The question comes up, right? It's definitely a question that can come up. Yeah. Any other questions? All right, I'm gonna stop here. I do this every Sunday, 4 o'clock, um, Israel time, 9 o'clock Eastern time. Anyone has any questions, find me on Facebook at Chaim Kaufman, Beyond Orthodox Conversion Judaism, OrthodoxConversion.com, Beyond Orthodox Conversion Judaism on YouTube. There I got videos on Q&As, that's our fathers. Book of Leviticus, you want to send me an email, RabbiChaimKaufman@gmail.com, RABBICHAIMCOFFMAN at gmail.com, whichever good beginning of the day, middle of the day, depending where you are, almost end of the day.